Hey, 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 what's going on, guys? It's Wednesday Night Live, and we're live. It's good to see you. I missed you last week. We being my family, my wife and I, and kids, had a little trip that we went on. Had a good time. We uh, we went to visit the mouse, and if you know where Orlando, Florida is, you know exactly what I mean about the mouse. And the mouse has a way of uh, making you very, very tired. And somehow or another, according to our phones and smartwatches and things, we managed to walk near 40 miles over the course of 4 days. Um, so yeah, a little tired. I took a little nap when I got home from the shop today, and I woke up about 30 minutes ago. So here I am. I had to scramble to get things ready, but I think and I hope that we're ready for a good time tonight. I hope that you guys are ready to have a good time. I've got a little stage set up over here. There we go. Where we will be taking a closer look at this paint as I put in the email and showing you guys how it works. And so, bad news for me, good news for you. I have not tested any of this yet. Bad news for me because, as Jeff told me earlier, if this goes south, it's egg in my face. The good news for you guys is this is behind the curtain, so to speak. This is nothing set up, nothing pre-recorded. I can't edit this. We are literally going to put this paint in an airbrush. We're going to paint. We're going to change colors. We're going to clean it up, and we're going to see how it works. Because my goal is not to try to sell you something that doesn't work. So I want you guys to see in a real life situation how this works, and hopefully it will. So I know it will. I trust it will. I've used the paint, obviously, and several of you have also used the paint. But we're going to try to do it in a way that looks easy, that is easy. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, Jeff, the mouse that will not be named. Oh, man. I hope you guys are having an excellent day. Jeff is here and Joseph. Good to see y'all tonight. Lawn Care Novice. And yes, indeed, let's paint. I appreciate it, buddy. Danny, good to see you tonight, my friend. And by the way, while I'm thinking about it, so the email that I sent out last Wednesday said that phone call support was going to be closed until the 30th, Thursday, which is tomorrow. No, I'm sorry. It said Wednesday today, but then if you have been calling, the answering machine says that we are not taking phone calls until tomorrow. So I messed up on the email last week, but I knew that when I got back today, I would be playing catch up, and I was. So I apologize if you were trying to call me today. I will be back on the phones tomorrow starting at 10 o'clock. So give me a call. If you can't get through, as always, that I say, just keep trying. I'm there. I just got to take calls as they come in. Always good to talk to you guys. Ken, good to see you tonight. And Derek and Randy's here. David from Central Florida, I was right down your way, buddy. And Tom, good to see you tonight from Florida. David's in here tonight. Says he just ordered some more of the Squadron paint and that he is sold. So that is good deal. Good deal for sure. Wayne, good to see you tonight, buddy. Wayne, you need a new compressor. Any recommendations? Well, my recommendation is to buy our new upcoming Squadron compressor. Unfortunately, it's a little ways off. We're still working on that. You'll see me using some of our prototype airbrushes tonight. We're getting ready to have our own private labeled airbrushes, and we've got a compressor picked out that's going to be really nice. Or well, it works. It does its job. I'm trying our airbrushes. I'm trying to get the most bang for our buck, right? So I want I want everything. I want the best brush you can possibly get for the least amount of money you can possibly pay for it. So the same thing with the compressor. I want something that's nice, that works, that won't break the bank, so to speak. So that's what I recommend, Wayne. But like I said, I don't have those ready yet. If you need one right now, you'll just have to do a little looking and digging and see what's going to work for you, because at the moment we don't really have anything to offer at Squadron. David Miller, 2025 catalog. This is, we're still working on it. I apologize. We originally wanted to have it out by now, but I forgot to take into consideration how busy we would be in the fourth quarter, mainly November and December with Christmas sales and Black Friday and all that fun stuff. So we just didn't get it to the finish line, and we're still not there. But it's in the progress. We're working on it, and we will get it shipped out as soon as possible. Rex, good to see you tonight, buddy. And Jason, good to see you tonight too, man. Man, I'm sorry to hear about your hospital trip. Get better and get back to your modeling bench. I know that you're missing it, and hopefully I get to see you at one of these coming up shows here in the next few weeks. Let's see. Bunch of other guys in here tonight. I'm just scrolling through. If I don't say hello to you tonight, I apologize. We got a lot of guys in the chat, and I like to say hello to everybody, but we got a lot to do tonight. Let's see. Good to see you, Jim. Hey, Ed. Good to see you tonight. The Nuremberg show that is going on right now. There are a bunch of announcements, but it's still going on. I'm still waiting to hear. I got to wait to see. A lot of the manufacturers that we deal with, they've told us some things, but of course they don't like us to say anything until they do their unveiling at the show. So we'll be able to show those off soon. Chances are you guys will be able to know about it before I make an announcement in some cases. But lots of good stuff coming out this year for sure. Let's see. A lot of guys in here tonight. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any other questions. I appreciate everybody in the chat tonight. David, is Black Cat models gone for good? Black Cat, we still carry Ben. I know Ben well. We still carry his stuff. I don't know if there's something going on with Black Cat that I'm not aware of. I'll have to give Ben a call and see what's up. But as far as I know, all is good, and we get restocks. I hopefully have a restock that'll be here in the next few weeks. We got a lot of stuff cooking from the end of the year, so I know we're out of a lot of stuff. If you're asking because we're out of so much of his stuff, that's simply because Christmas time we sell out of a bunch of stuff, and like many other 3D print companies, Ben kind of prints everything to order, so to speak. So it takes a little while for him to get some of our larger orders shipped out sometime. But that stuff, it will be coming back in. It's good stuff, and we intend to keep it. And Jeff Hearn is with us tonight, Mr. Paint Man himself. So if you've got any questions about the paint, throw the paint questions in the chat, and this guy here will be the one answering them if I do not answer them publicly on the microphone. Let's see. Frank, I don't know. I probably won't be spraying the door tonight. It's too big to fit on the camera, but I've got a few things over here we're going to take a look at. As you see, some ship holes, a couple of figures. So we got a couple of things to look at. All right. Ed, the Titanic colors, they will be coming. We've got them all. It's just a matter of getting things bottled up and labeled and all that fun stuff. At this moment, the entire line, not just the Titanic colors, but really only about half of the paint line is in stock, and the rest of it will be coming over the next couple and few weeks. Kimberly, good to see you tonight. Yeah, there you go, Jason. Same thing. Some of you guys, you're probably already talking about these questions that I'm pulling up, but let's see. Rick Bang's with us tonight. Good to see you, Rick. And glad you like the paint. That is excellent. So before we jump in here, I wanted to show you this one thing. So 5-star master, not to be confused with 5-Star Models, announced a while back a V2 rocket in 1/350th scale, and it was, or it is, the V2 rocket that they set up on the USS Midway, and these things have finally come in. It's pretty cool. This is the box that it comes in. It comes with a display case, but let me come over here and show you on this camera. It might work a little better. Let's see. Yeah, so here's what you get in there. It's all 3D printed, as you can imagine, but it's everything. I want to take these out and take better pictures of them so you can see what all's in here, but everything looks really good. What I thought was funny is he even includes CA glue with it. So a lot of people have asked, what do you use to put 3D printed models together? And of course, you can't use plastic cement. So he's fixed that problem. He put the CA glue right in with the box, or right in with the model. So it's pretty neat. And if you checked out the email we sent earlier, you noticed, or should have noticed, that we now have Kagero publishing books. And these are really neat books. We used to carry these years ago at Free Time Hobbies, and I'm sure that Squadron has carried them in the past before we got involved. Maybe not, I don't know. But these are really neat books. The ones that I remember were always my favorite were this series, the ship model books. They're super drawings in 3D. These are just really, really nice books. This one, of course, is on the Bismarck. But as you go through this book, it's just really, really nice 3D rendered images. You get to see all sorts of sections of the boat in full color. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. So they just do a really, really nice job. They've got a whole series of books in that series. They do the same thing with tanks and other vehicles. Here's the M3 Lee. They've got this one is pretty neat too. So this is their what do they call it? Their top colors series, and of course this one is on lightnings. But the cool thing about these books is, let's see, you go through here and you see all the planes, the side profiles, all this kind of stuff that kind of looks like painting guides and decal placement charts. And that's exactly what it is, because this book also includes a full decal sheet. So everything that is shown off in this book, you can build a decal. And this is kind of the same concept of the B-24 book that we've been talking about, that we're working on. So when these came in and I saw it, I thought, oh, wow, look at that. That's pretty cool. Same kind of concept. So they've got several, that's the Lightning, but they've got several there. I think we have a Mustang. There's several of them that I saw at the shop. That's just the one that I brought home with me. And then in addition to that, they have what I guess I'll call regular books too. This is the F4 Phantom, but this is just your, I don't know. I guess if this were a Squadron book, it'd be an in-action book. This is all your historical information about the plane. So they've got an entire series of that type of book as well. So I don't know how many different Kagero books we've got in stock at the moment. We got a bunch of them. All of the Kagero books that we carry, unless we mess up, are English, because they offer their books in a couple of different languages, but all the ones that we intend to stock are English. So unless it specifically states otherwise, you can count on the ones that are on our website being in English. So make sure to check those out. Good stuff. If you've never tried one of their books, especially their 3D books, you just got to check it out. So, and here is Randy Van Dyke. Hey, Randy, good to see you and glad you joined us. So I want to show you guys something that Randy sent me earlier. Hopefully he's okay with me showing this. Chances are he would have told me not to if he didn't want me to. So Randy is an excellent figure painter. In my opinion, one of the best. I met him at Wonderfest years ago, and he likes doing large scale figures primarily. And so he does a figure painting workshop. I guess workshop is what you call it, at Wonderfest, and kind of goes through the way that he creates flesh tones on figures. And the first time I saw his workshop or whatever at Wonderfest, I remember he was doing a 1/6 scale, I believe it was, Superman, and just the way that he was able to paint that figure as quickly as he painted it, and it looked great. I was kind of blown away. So I talked to him. We kind of became friends a little bit, and so when we started getting ready to do our paint, I asked him. I said, Randy, look, I want to do skin colors, flesh colors, and I want to offer them to work with your system, the way that you paint your figures. And I said, will you help me with that? And of course he did. So thank you, Randy. And I said, I want to do can we get away with doing like a 6-color set? And he said, absolutely. So I asked him, I said, tell me the 6 colors that we need. And he, of course, has his little secret mixtures that he uses. And he sent them to me, and we matched them up. And this is the the Randy Van Dyke 6-color flesh tone set. So I just put this on the website. It's not really called the Randy set, but it should be. But you'll see this. This is our first paint set. I've been talking about we're going to have all of our paints offered in sets. This is the first one. It's up on the website tonight. And this includes all 6 of the flesh colors. Now, I've also been talking about this website, scalecolors.com, that we're working on. Once we get that going, when you buy one of our sets, it would, in theory, include a little QR code type of thing that would take you to this item on the website, where we will have information on how to use it. We're working on instructional videos, demo videos. I know Jeff is working on one of the 200 scale Curtis Wilbur kits right now for himself, and the paint set that's going to be available for that. He's going to have a tutorial about these are the colors you need. This is why, and it'll be kind of just good information. So let me show you what Randy was able to do with this paint set this past weekend. If I can get this to work. All right, this is, come on. Things only work when you don't need them to. Oh man, the video is going to be washed out. Oh, that's not good. We don't need it to be washed out. Hold on. Oh man, yeah, washed out picture demonstrating paint is not good. Bear with me just a moment. Yeah, remember when we were doing all the show and tells, and that's not it. That looks really good, but that's not it. Oh man, when we were doing the show and tells, and everything was washed out, and then we switched over to the PowerPoints, that fixed it. But I don't have a PowerPoint ready for this, but I'm about to. Sorry, guys. All right. So anyway, this is Randy's. He did this like super fast using the 6-color set, and the way that hopefully I can talk him into giving me a rundown, either a video or at least a typed out tutorial of how he does this. And this is all done with an airbrush using these paints. So let's see, there we go. Yeah, so there's what Randy was able to do with this face using our Flesh Tones paint set. So as you can see, it looks really nice. I think so anyway. So you too can paint like this. I can't, but I'm sure you guys can. So this is cool. This is like I said, our first paint set. Now each one of these 6 colors is available individually on the website, but this is kind of the same concept we're going to do with everything. So one of the ship kits that I've got over here is the USS Alaska. And I've got some of the 5L that I'll be using in the whole red, of course. But you need other colors too, right? You need black, you need 20B, you need 50, you need some white. So all of those colors that you would need for USS Alaska would be boxed up together in one set. And then when you go to the little QR code that we'll end up getting working at some point, hopefully soon, you'll go to the website and you'll be able to see what the camo pattern is and what the paint scheme is, what the dazzle pattern is. So it will be hopefully good. And Randy says he plans on an instructional video explaining his procedure of how to do this with those 6 colors. So I appreciate that, Randy. I look forward to seeing that myself, because it'll be very good to know. All right, let's jump over here and see what these paints can do for us tonight. Figure out. All right. Go. There we go. Okay. Couldn't get it to do. All right. So hopefully you guys can hear me over here. This microphone doesn't exactly reach this far, but whatever. We'll make it work. So I think what we will do first, this figure right here in front of me is X Plus's new Red Sonja kit. And I'm actually working on a full build video for this. So we're not going to paint this. This will be painted for my build-up video that I'm supposed to get done soon. So we'll move that out of the way for the moment. It's all ready to paint, but not going to do that because my intention for it is for it to actually be the final result, be what I need. These I'm just going to spray and see what happens. So we've got, we'll do this Alaska hull that I was talking about and see how that goes. So here is Alaska. You know, I don't know where. Well, I intended to have masking tape down here so we could mask off the water line and show you how masking works. So maybe I'll find some in a minute. But for now, we are going to use. This is, if that'll focus, Norfolk 65A anti-fouling red. Now, what you guys will notice, and first of all, you got to shake up this stuff really well. So one of the things that really helps, I don't know if you can see this over here, I'll unplug it. One of these paint shakers You put it on here, turn it on, and it shakes the mess out of it. These work really well, but good old hand shaking also works. You just got to do it a bunch. You'll hear a, well, I don't know if you can hear it, but we got a couple of stainless bearings in each one of these bottles, so that helps. But anyway, after you get it shaken up good, because like I said, you want to shake it up very well. Get this thing open, put a little bit in your brush. It's probably enough to start with. Oops, make sure we're, yeah, there we go. Make sure we're spraying good, and we are, at least I hope. And then, and again, guys, remember, this is not a how to paint good tutorial. This is a how to use our paint tutorial. So I am by no means trying to paint an IPMS Nationals winning model kit here. This is more or less just to show how the paint works and how to, you know, clean between colors and that kind of thing. So don't think I'm trying to show you that I'm a great painter, because I'm not. That's not the purpose of this. And you want to build this stuff up with light coats, as we've mentioned before. And one thing that you'll notice when you start painting is the color is going to look, if you're familiar with the color that you're spraying and you know what it's supposed to look like, one of the first things you may notice is that it comes out of the airbrush onto the model a little light. Well, that's just kind of the way the paint works. But what we'll notice as we build up a couple of coats and it starts to dry, you'll notice that it darkens up. And then give it a few minutes and it'll all of a sudden be the right color. So, and this brush, by the way, this needle in this brush is a 0.2 millimeter brush needle, by the way. I guess I didn't put enough in there. Let's see. And one of the things I wanted to mention is cleaning these brushes. A lot of people want to try to use some of the most common things like this, or like this, or maybe even like this. Don't do that, because this paint, it doesn't like those. It's going to gum up. You can use good old water, which I've got here. That helps clean up. But you can only use water if you're cleaning pretty quick. Imagine a paintbrush, good old-fashioned paintbrush. When you're painting with a paintbrush and you get done painting this little figure here, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to put your paintbrush down and let all the paint dry on the tip? No, we're going to come over here and we're going to clean the bristles out before we lay it down. Consider doing the same thing with your airbrush. Don't let that paint sit in there for more than, a minute or two, really. If you're done with the color, clean it out of there and move on. And it'll really help you. And I'm eating my own foot here, because when I used the airbrush last night, I didn't clean it at all. So now I'm having trouble. But that's what I get for not listening to my own advice. I left some green in there. But we'll clean this out real quick, get back to it. And the other fun thing about what I'm doing here is the fact that I'm using prototype airbrushes. I've got about 10 prototypes here. And my job is to make sure we pick the best one. And sometimes you got to pick a different one, right? So this airbrush, I'll show it to you real quick because you may wonder. This prototype was mostly just to see what different colors. So we tried a bunch of different things, and this is kind of the color scheme we like. The Squadron Eagle and all this stuff's not really lined up. We got to get it lined up better. But we were testing out different anodizing colors and whatnot. But we've got several different brushes that we hope to apply that scheme on. This being another one, and I have no idea what size needle is in this one. We've been trying 0.2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. We want to offer all that stuff, but this feels about like either a 2 or a 3. But yeah, that's working much better. Like any tool in any trade, keeping your tools clean is very important, as you see. We'll let that side dry for a second. And again, remember, this is not a this is how you paint. This is how the paint works video. I would like to believe that if I were actually doing this to be a real display model, I'd probably take a little bit more time and care with the painting. But that's not the purpose of what we're doing right now. So. Yeah, see, I didn't even clean the model. I got little hairs on it. But again, for what we're doing tonight, none of that stuff matters. All right, we're going to let that dry for just a second. Come back over to this first side that we painted. Oh, sorry about that. All right, now we are ready to fill it in and finish this little test coat of red out of here. once you build up a good initial layer or two, you can really go ahead and get it on there. There it is. All right, we'll let that dry for a minute, make sure with these lights on that I've got in here so you guys can see. I pretty much can't see anything. It's like standing on a stage playing your guitar looking out in the audience. I'm blinded, so I can't really see what in the world I've done, but hopefully it looks decent. All right, so let's change to a different color while that dries for a few minutes. So I talked about changing with water, so we'll do that a little bit here. And good old smart me didn't bring a, all right, well, we're just gonna use this to spray into. I don't need my Tamiya lacquer thinner much anymore, so we'll just use this bottle to spray into. Now, I don't know how you guys clean your cups out and do color changes, but I just do whatever is necessary to get that paint out of there. Use a lot of Q-tips. A lot of Q-tips and a lot of paper towels. Alright. I don't know if you can see in there, but worked out pretty decent. And, you know, water cleans it out pretty good as long as you don't let it sit there too long. You can also use a little thinner. Throw that through there just to make sure. It's more important to get it perfectly clean between colors only if you are, you know, switching from, you know, like to a light color. If you were going to change to white, for example, like we will in a few minutes, it's a little bit more important to get it, you know, a little bit more clean. But if you're going from a dark color to another dark color, you can do color change a lot quicker as long as you do your final clean at the end of the night, like I did not do last night. So, all right, let's swap over to, where's it at? My 5L. Oh, here it is. While I'm shaking this, I'm going to come over here back to the screen and see what you guys are talking about. Hopefully Jeff's got me covered here. All right. It looks like Jeff is talking to you guys in the chat, so I will let y'all keep at it. All right, and here we go with some 5L. Well, do we want to do that? That 5L may not show up good on the screen. Let's try something green, I think. Let's see. Ah, and looky what we've got here. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. You got turn your mic up just a little bit, perhaps.
Oh, maybe. Does this help?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Okay, well, I'll do it this way.
Good deal. How are you?
I am trying to make sense of this shop behind me. So
Yeah.
as you can see, I kind of have my own hobby shop, and I've got kits. I'm in the process of taking half of the shop, moving it to one side of the basement, and reorganizing, and then moving. And what I'm finding is that it's not a 2-step process; it's about an 8-step process, and I'm just done.
There you go. Well, I'm
I'm
over
done.
here fumbling around with airbrushes, and I say that this brush is the one that I left green in last night, but I think I just found the one that I left green in. I think this is the one. Remember when you were here 2 weeks ago and you painted that dinosaur at the shop before we left?
And we never cleaned it.
We never cleaned the brush. We were trying to get out of there so we could go eat. So that brush had 2-week-old paint in it.
Men have to have their priorities, and chicken nuggets. So
Yeah.
it's
So
always a priority. But
yeah. So I apologize. So that thankfully didn't have anything to do with the paint. That was just us not cleaning
well,
the
here,
airbrush
if you
2 weeks ago.
if the viewers are interested, I
All
heard
right.
you mention the Curtis Wilbur.
Yeah. What do you got?
So this is where we are with the 200 scale Arleigh Burke, and of course, obviously, this is all squadron scale colors paint. Modern U.S. Navy haze gray, number 82 dull black for the boot stripe, and modern U.S. Navy hull red, and FS 36008 for modern deck gray.
Nice.
I have yet to mask off and do the flight deck, which had a rubberized coating, and then there's some anti-skid walkways along the deck of the ship. I'm waiting for the paint to cure another day or so. But
Okay.
as you can see, it's there's nothing on this. There's no clear coat or anything on it, so it's pretty durable. And that is 2 coats of hull red and 2 coats of the haze gray.
Okay.
But this is what you get when your airbrush actually works.
Well, when it actually works and you're not trying to rush through and do this stuff fast. But hey, that's all right. Like I said, the purpose of this video is not to make a pretty model. It's to show how this airbrush can, or not the airbrush, the paint can work out of an airbrush. So
Exactly.
all right. So while that whole red over there dries, I've got some. This is U.S. Army olive drab, the 1960s olive drab, and we are going to use this, hopefully, to paint a little bit of green on this little bitty Incredible Hulk model.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm glad you're not putting it on the Alaska.
Come on, why not? This is a little bitty resin kit. I think it's a 75 millimeter kit. Scale 7, not scale 75. Night Models. That's who it was. Back when Night Models was doing Marvel stuff. But all right, so usually I like to prime my resin stuff. We'll get to this in a minute. I want to show how the white paint works. So this is the 1/6 scale Cherokee strip headdress, and I primed it earlier so we can paint white on there. I really like priming resin, but this is not primed, so hopefully this works out fine. Turn this pressure down. I have no idea what pressure I'm running. I know that we tell everybody to run 18 to 20. I think I was running a lot more than that.
Well, what you'll end up learning with the paint is that you can spray it at higher pressures, but it actually changes the texture of the paint. So if you're looking for a rough coated texture or almost like a powder coating,
Right?
Crank that pressure right up to 30 psi.
Really?
That forces the paint to almost dry before it hits the model.
Okay.
And it'll give you kind of a rough textured surface.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm seeing a difference in it. I just turned my pressure way down, and it is going on. It looked fine on that big hole, but this little bitty figure here,
right,
turning it down puts it on almost like a feather coat.
The sweet spot for air pressure is when you put the paint on the model, you still see the sheen of the paint.
Okay.
If the paint appears to be dry as soon as it hits the model, you've got too much pressure.
I see. Okay.
So as long as you can still see a little bit of that sheen as the paint is hitting the model, and it should go away within 10 or 15 seconds, but as long as you see that sheen, that's indicative that the paint is actually hitting the model wet, and then there'll be some self-leveling that'll happen.
Okay, that makes sense.
Dennis, to answer your question for the Arleigh Burke, I use 2 bottles or 1 ounce of Hull Red. And it was 2 coats of anti-fouling over a primed hull. And it was a gray primed hull. It would probably be a little bit less than if I had done a red primed hull. Frank, to answer your question about the best way to prime PE, there is stuff out there called etching primer. If you go to any auto body, auto parts, paint shop where they do work on cars, it's a metal etching primer. I'm not sure if the local hobby shop or the local hardware stores stock it or not. Make sure that if you are going to prime photo etch with an etching primer, that you use adequate ventilation and all of the necessary PPE, because the stuff is pretty nasty.
I don't know if they still offer it, but I know Tamiya used to sell what they called metal primer, and I'm pretty sure that was the same kind of thing.
Yeah, self-etching primer.
Yep. All right, so there you go. There's a little bit of green on a Hulk. You know, nothing too fancy or special there, but just another color to change over to. So let's get that green out of there and do something else. Let's see.
And I haven't we haven't set up the squadron emails for me yet. And when the company's changed hands, my Scale Colors emails went away. So if you do have paint questions, feel free to send them to Brandon at info@squadron.com, and he'll forward them on to me.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And I will I'll respond to the best of my abilities if you have any technical questions about paint or want to discuss paint colors, or what color was this or what color was that. Be happy to help out.
Right now, we still, since we got started up with Squadron almost 3 or 4 years ago now, whenever it was, we have only had the one email address, the info@Squadron. But as we continue to grow, the need for everybody to have their own email address continues to get closer and closer. So we'll get to that. But like Jeff said, if you need to get with him about paint, email us and we'll make sure the question gets to the right place.
Unless you're one of those lucky few that has my personal contact information. I know there's a few guys here that do. You can also find us on Facebook. The Scale Colors has a Facebook group, and you can feel free to message me through there as well.
Let's see, let's do some 20B deck blue. That is this is one of those colors, Jeff, that I don't know why in the world more people don't have this color just off the shelf. Just 20B deck blue,
it's a very dark blue with a hint of green in it, and to my knowledge, unless there are other competitors or other companies that are actually producing 20B deck blue as a specific color, it's a very difficult color to mix using Tamiya or any of the other regular colors. So it's Scale Colors' number one selling color.
Yeah, I used to use Tamiya's, I think it was Field Blue. It was not perfect, but it was the closest thing I could get without having to mix. It was good enough for me, but it's very nice being able to just have this right out of the bottle now.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to mention I think it was Buck Dean that emailed me earlier about the paint. One of the things that Buck had mentioned, and a couple of other people had mentioned too, is, and Jeff can speak a little bit more technical on this question, but as far as the reason, as we saw at the beginning of the show with this brush, it's very important to get this paint out of your airbrush as soon as you're done with it, because the way, and like I said, Jeff, you speak to this, but just like that paintbrush, not letting the paint dry on these bristles between colors get that paint out of here, because once this, like we've been saying, once this stuff cures, it's very hard, like an enamel, and it will absolutely mess up the inside of your, it won't ruin your airbrush, but it'll mess up your paint evening unless you have a backup brush like I thankfully did.
Yeah,
So Jeff, speak
absolutely.
on that a little bit for me.
Well, and again, we've got to look at our workflow. I mean, we've become accustomed as modelers. We're creatures of habit, so we tend to do a lot of the same things, and you can't spray a bottle of scale colors and expect it to behave like Tamiya or Gunzi or AK. It's a different chemistry of paint. Now, if you're painting with a paintbrush, you know, the fuzzy stick, and you go from one color to another, what's the first thing you do? You put it in water and you clean the brush before you switch colors. So why are we so reluctant to do that with airbrushes? You know, you run the cup dry, and if you are spraying something large like the Alaska hull there, sure, you can add more paint to it, do it 2, 3, 4 times. But if you're going to put that brush down for more than 4 or 5 minutes, empty the cup, spray it out, run water through it, and, you know, give it a swab with a paper towel, and you're good to go. The longer you leave that paint in the cup, the paint is going to catalyze. It's going to start that chemical reaction process because it's exposed to air. And if you leave it in there overnight, you got to break the brush down, and by then you're using harsh solvents to clean the brush, and that is kind of counterintuitive to the whole reason why we created the paint in the first place.
Right.
So it's as much about changing the workflow and changing the mindset as it is anything else.
Yeah, I'm trying to be careful to go around the parts, but I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? Because all that's getting covered up anyway.
And I also see variations in how we actually spray.
I'm not a good sprayer at all. Like I said at the beginning of this is not a how to airbrush video.
I spray at about half of that speed.
Yeah. Again, I would never do this if I was actually trying to build a model.
Right. I spray at about half that speed, and I try to achieve uniform coverage. That's the old automotive spray paint days.
I mean, we could do that, but we'd be here all night. Nobody wants to watch paint dry.
I do.
Well, you might want to watch paint dry, but and here you go. You know, people talking about how thin can you get this stuff to spray. I mean, you can really get down there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice, and doing all your camo patterns like that bomber that you built that we put in the shop.
One of the questions that we get consistently is, why do we need thinner if it's airbrush ready and it's water based and everything else? And the reason for that is this paint is very well suited, as you've seen by what Randy did with the tombstone figure of Kurt Russell. This paint lends itself really, really well to being used for pre-shading, post-shading, modulation, and things of that nature. You can take this paint; it's a very pigment-heavy paint, so you can thin it almost to the point of it being a wash. And once you achieve that balance of putting the right amount of air and the right amount of liquid through the brush, you can do some amazing things with this paint, as Randy has demonstrated. I've said this to Brandon on numerous occasions. I live vicariously through my customer base because I see people doing things with this paint that I am physically not capable of doing myself. People are doing some amazing stuff with this paint. I make the stuff and I can't do half of this stuff.
Well, I certainly can't do half the stuff, but I can't even do like 1% of the stuff. But I still have fun.
Well, that's all that matters.
I ran out of the 20B. Instead of sitting here and getting full coverage on that, we're going to move on to another color. Yeah, it's starting to darken up, so that looks correct now. Let's see. Let's do some white. That'll be fun. I should put some of this stuff on the shaker over there, but
the paint has to be shaken because it is set up for airbrush use right out of the bottle. The viscosity is considerably lower than other competing projects or products rather. So one of the key things is every bottle of paint has 2 stainless steel BBs in the bottle. When you hear those BBs break loose and start moving around inside of the bottle, you know you're probably about halfway there. If you see marbling on the outside of the bottle, meaning you'll see streaks of color, bottle's not shaken well enough. So I highly recommend getting some form of electric paint shaker. I've seen guys.
Yeah, you hear it running. I had to mute the microphone.
Yeah, I've seen guys who have developed paint holders that use an electric drill, and they literally wrap it with rubber bands and they put it on an electric drill and they spin the daylights out of it. You know, whatever works. So the paint has to be shaken well.
Well, let's see how it turned out over here. Those little paint shakers are loud. Matt Johnson has a question here, Jeff. What needle size is recommended? So these that I'm using here, and it's not necessarily the perfect, it works for me tonight, but this is a 0.2. Jeff, what do you use?
Well, I have about 15 or 16 different airbrushes. When you manufacture paint, you got to kind of test it with everybody's brands and different combinations. A lot of it hinges on what you are intending to do. The sweet spot for the brush is a 0.2 to a 0.3. If you're doing detail work, a 0.2 down to a 0.15. I have some Harder and Steenbeck and an Iwata CMC Plus Micron that has a 0.13 needle, I believe, and it works just fine. Okay. If you're doing heavier coats, for example, if you're spraying the bottom of the hull of a ship and you don't want to be there for 4 days, you can go to a 0.3 or a 0.4 needle, and you're going to go through more paint because it's putting a heavier coat of paint down and putting out more volume of paint. So a lot of it hinges on what you actually need it for. I wouldn't use a 0.4 needle to do counter shading or post shading because, you know, you have a harder time. Unless you've got a really delicate trigger finger, you're going to have a difficult time controlling the flow of paint onto the substrate.
Right. And again, this needle that we're using here right now is a 0.2.
Right. Yeah, 0.2 to 0.3 is generally the sweet spot. If you're using a 0.3, I'd say probably run anywhere from 20 to 25 psi. If you're running a 0.2, anywhere from 12 to 18 psi is ideal. And there are so many variables. The sweet spot for someone who's in South Florida where the humidity is 85 degrees is different than someone who's in Phoenix, Arizona, where the relative humidity is 30%. So you're going to have to experiment with it, just like any other new product that comes in. I don't recommend that you crack open a bottle of Scale Colors and put it on your scratch built 1,500 hour project that you've been working on until you know the product and you know how it behaves and you've built up some confidence with the product. Just like anything
in other
else.
Words, don't do what I'm doing right now to your Holy Grail kit.
Yeah, but it's white paint, and the beauty of this paint, we are in the process of adding a paint stripper, because if you have paint, you got to have a way to remove it, because we've all painted things with the wrong color. But the best way to remove this paint, as soon as you realize that you have a mistake, isopropyl alcohol and some Q-tips for really fine detail work, like the piece that Brandon's working on right now. Isopropyl alcohol and paper towels if you realize that you put the wrong color of hull red on the Alaska and you want to strip it down. But the longer you wait, the harder it is going to be to remove it. In fact, if you put the paint down and you decide that you actually want to go through, and one of the things that I did that with the Arleigh Burke, the Curtis Wilbur kit, between coats, I used a Scotch-Brite pad and actually went in and kind of gently rough sanded the surface before I put the second coat down. And the second coat I put down a little wetter than the first coat, and it self-leveled and it came out beautifully.
Yep. Now, Jeff, talk about any paint is gonna, I out of habit, you see me over here shooting on the napkin because I'm so used to tip dry, and it's literally out of habit, but not really having much trouble with that. So what's going on in this paint that's keeping this from drying out on the tip too bad?
Well, when I formulated the paint way back in the olden days, about 8 years ago, I set out to develop a product that did a bunch of different things. And one of the things that I was concerned about was tip dry. And tip dry happens when you're putting too much air through the brush and it's over catalyzing and drying the paint before it has the opportunity to actually leave the airbrush. So we put a flow control agent into the chemistry of the paint, so you don't have to add a flow improver or anything like that. It's already in the paint. Dennis, to answer your question, overspray, yeah. Again, it depends on how much paint you're putting down on the substrate. Odor, the only odor that you get out of this paint is isopropyl alcohol, and it's no worse than being in any hospital emergency room. Again, that was part of when we were actually developing the chemistry of the paint. My wife is a severe asthmatic, and I couldn't even spray Tamiya with Tamiya thinner. And she could be on. I'm in the basement, and she's up on the second floor, and she immediately knows when I'm spraying Tamiya paint. And Tamiya is nowhere near as volatile as the lacquers or some of these other solvent-based paints. So when we were developing the paint, the first thing that I said was that I wanted it to be water-based and no or extremely low odor, and that was one of the things that was critical.
Well, look at the room that I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah,
this is, well, I don't know, maybe 12 by 15 or something. The door is closed, 8-foot ceiling. I smell nothing, and you can see there's no cloud of dust in here. So,
right. And that is part of the formulation of the paint. It is a wet paint, and this is not a knock on any competitors' paints. Tamiya and Gunze they're a dry paint. They are drying as soon as they come out of the airbrush. This is a wet paint. This paint is designed and chemically formulated to hit the substrate wet, self-level, and then the chemical reaction happens and the paint starts to actually dry. Whereas, that's one of the reasons why a Tamiya or an AK or a Gunze Sangyo paint will be dry to the touch about 50% faster than what scale colors will be.
But about how long does it take? About how long does it take for this to become dry to the touch?
Dry to the touch in about 10 minutes.
Oh, so I should be able to pick this up, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that. Absolutely fine. Good deal. All right, so moving right along with another color change. So far, so good. Let's put let's see, what do we got? how about some SU-27 bright blue?
Those are colors for legacy flankers,
Okay.
which we do have on the website.
We're just gonna have a little bit of fun for a second. It's really nice having something that just works right out of the bottle like this. Which is kind of cool.
Ed, to answer your question, yeah, that is the my workflow for decks is typically if I'm doing a deck that has 5.0 ocean gray in the camouflage pattern, if it's a part of the dazzle schemes, because measure 21 and measure 22 did not have dazzle decks. But if I'm doing a dazzle pattern, I'll paint the 5.0 ocean gray first. I'll mask that off, paint the 20B. I'll give the 20B anywhere from a day or two to actually cure. And then I will go around and actually mask off the deck areas around the gun tubs, things of that nature. And then I'll spray the 5H or whatever the, if I'm doing dazzle, whatever the backline color is, 5L, 5N, number 82, dull black, ocean gray, depending on what camouflage scheme I'm doing. Some guys like to work, in the opposite direction. So you'd spray the gun tubs first in whatever color, mask them off in the vertical, and then spray your deck color. I actually did that. I did a flip and deviated from my normal build with this Curtis Wilbur. I sprayed all of the bulkheads haze gray, masked them off, and then sprayed the deck color over the top. It's personal preference.
We'll do one more color here, then I'll put the airbrush up for the time being.
Brian, the paint comes out of the bottle in kind of a semi-gloss. You can certainly do a final wet coat. The best response would be to make that color uniform, because very few of us can airbrush with the consistency that makes the paint uniform across the board. There's always going to be tonal variations, and there's always going to be texture variations depending on the substrate and just your painting methods. So I would always recommend putting a clear coat down as your final coat in either a gloss or a semi-gloss.
I don't know what color this is. This is RAL 8017.
1.3 or 1.7.
The Panzer Rotbraun.
Oh, that is World War II German Panzer red brown from the tricolor scheme.
Well, that's what the German Cyclopses were painted. Didn't you know
again,
that?
that's the beauty of what we're doing with a lot of these colors. If you don't build German armor, if you're looking for a red brown, don't be afraid to pick up a German armor color if you think it looks like the right shade. Especially if you do monsters or figures, sci-fi. German armor red brown makes a good leather. A red leather for saddles or things of that nature. If you're a figure painter, good base coat for fur, or if you're doing monsters or dinosaurs or things of that nature.
There you go. Just another example of an easy.
You're just painting everything.
I'm just swapping colors and throwing paint on things now. So
messing up Q-tips and.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just having a good time, I guess. It's fun being able to swap between colors and just paint. So, but let me clean this up real quick, and I'll come back over and we'll chat a bit about this and look through and see what kind of questions you guys might have.
Tom, we have a we don't have the mint green as of yet, but we do have that blue green that you commonly see in MiG 21s and the Hinds, whatever the mill is for the Hind. It's kind of it's almost like a hospital ward green, that blue green color. It's really kind of a nauseating color, but we do have that color available. It was commonly seen in the legacy flankers. Again, and you know, everyone's asking, do we have this color? Do we have that color? We are not opposed to, you know, adding new colors at the drop of a hat if there's enough of a response or there's enough of a need. We just have to remember that, you know, we gotta. I'm the guy that's got to do the research and get the color matched and get it mixed, and then we got to get it bottled and all of that fun stuff. So there is a bit of a lag that's involved in getting a new product, getting a new color into production. But and I think I'm speaking for Brandon when I say that, you know, we are not opposed to putting, you know, as many colors into production as the hobby needs or wants.
Well, the thing for me is, and I'm doing a final clean out real quick. I don't want to have another situation like we did with the brush earlier. But the good thing is about this clean out, and Jeff, you know this, and any of you guys that already use this paint, as long as you do this final clean, you know, that my brush is going to sit there for the rest of the night, right? Do this like before the paint dries. That's the easiest clean out you'll ever do. I'm done. It's ready to go. It's just going to sit there all night, and it'll be ready to paint when I get back.
Now, if you don't do that, you've got a disaster on your hands in the morning, and it's an hour to clean that brush.
Yeah, as you saw at the start of this show. But just add it to your workflow. Keep your airbrush clean.
Yeah, it involves a change of mindset. You know, we develop, as modelers, we're creatures of habit, and we develop this thing that we call perceptive conditioning, and that is, we see something and we automatically assume that everything that we do has to follow the way we learn to do it with product A, and product A might be different from product B, product C. So you kind of have to break out of that mold of this is the way that it always has to be, because it's not. We treat lacquers differently than we treat acrylics, and
right.
We treat, you know, so there's a learning curve that is involved with the paint. I've seen people do some absolutely incredible things with this product.
Yeah.
Things that I myself am not capable of doing artistically. I'm a little envious of that.
Well, the thing to remember too, Jeff, is this was not, and I think I'm speaking for you, at least this is why we bought the thing from you. It was not created to just simply try to compete with other paint. To me, a paint is very good paint.
It is.
I still use it. We still sell it. We're not going to stop. I'm going to keep using it. Vallejo, very good paint. Yep. This is different. It's not to replace those. It's to add another type of paint. Now, the more I use this, the more I like it, and I'm going to probably prefer this over other things in my workbench. So to go back to what you were talking about, doing new colors, the good thing about these colors is if you guys want a certain color, you got to convince me that I need it for myself. Because if I need it for a model, you can pretty much count on it's going to end up making its way into our color line.
Right. You know, it's amazing. I've had a few of my modeling friends and a few customers have come to the shop, and they are stunned and amazed to see that I have a Gunzi Sangyo rack, right, and a Tamiya rack, right, and a Vallejo rack in my shop. Well, wait a minute. Why are you using that stuff? Because I don't have every color in the book.
Right.
And there are some things that Tamiya is better suited for than scale colors. There are some things that your scale colors are better suited for than Tamiya, especially if you don't like mixing or if you want consistency with a specific historical color. You're never going to mix Tamiya paint to make an accurate 5H haze gray or 20B deck blue two times in a row.
Well,
you're never going to be able to do that.
One thing that I just remembered I wanted to show, and this is not what this paint is intended to be used for. It is obviously intended to be used out of an airbrush, just like we have shown. But one of our number one questions is, how does it work with a paintbrush? So I'm just going to show you. And this, you wouldn't. Oh, I went there. You would not want to paint this with a paintbrush. It would. No, it would look horrible. It would look horrible. It would look worse than my 2-minute paint job looks there. But what you can, and what I have already done for my own modeling, is, I'll get a little bit out here. You can use this for small touch-ups. So let's say that, and forget what color this is, but let's say I was doing this whole Cyclops, but I needed to do his horn. I don't want to get the airbrush out just for this little horn. I mean, little small things, you can absolutely use a brush to do small touch-ups. If something happened here, these little bumps on his head, I mean, you can come through here and you can do small touch-ups. You can do small little things just like you would with Tamiya paint. Now, some of you guys may be like master painters with brushes and stuff, but I can't paint with a brush worth a flip using Tamiya. It just doesn't work for me. But this paint, for me, works about like Tamiya does as far as using it with a paintbrush. Very light coats, and just make sure to spread it out. So, I mean, you can kind of see, you're going to have to work with it. You guys are probably better than me with a brush, but you can use a paintbrush. It's not that the paint will not stick to a paintbrush or anything like that. That's just not what this paint is intended to be used with. It's intended to be sprayed out of a gun. So there you go.
Now, that being said, if any of your audience has developed a technique for brush painting Tamiya, for example, and they know how to brush paint Tamiya, then you'll be able to brush paint scale colors.
Yeah. It's just, that's not what it was designed for.
Right. It's not what it was designed for, but it can be done. The key to brush painting this, I use a method that I picked up from, I can't even remember who I picked it up from. It was a figure painter of some merit, whose name eludes me at the moment. And he used a method called puddle painting. And what he would actually do is, you're not actually putting the brush in contact with the surface of the model. You're putting the paint down, and you're literally using the paintbrush to move the paint around and spread it out, and manipulating the paint into a thin enough layer so that it self levels, and then it starts to dry on its own. If you put this paint down too heavily with a paintbrush, you'll actually see it start to crack.
Oh, there you are. So there you go. You can use a paintbrush. We just do not recommend painting it. Don't, use it for touch-up. Use it for small details. There's a ton of stuff over here in the chat. Hopefully
I think I've covered most of it.
Okay. Yeah, if we left anybody out, I apologize. But I saw somebody ask a minute ago, and I don't see it now. Somebody was asking about what am I using for catching the overspray and the fumes and stuff. As you saw on my table, I wasn't using anything, and that's not necessarily what I would recommend. I mean, you see my Dora kit right there in the back, and hopefully I didn't get anything on there, but I mean, just from looking over there, everything looks fine. I mean, it just really works. You guys will just have to try it and see what you think.
The key is to control the flow of the paint. if you're getting a mushroom cloud of red paint, then you're putting way too much paint down. This is, think, precision strike versus carpet bombing. This is it works exceptionally well for what it was designed to do. And no, we have no intentions of putting it in rattle cans. So please don't even ask. I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Yeah, that's not going to be anything that we can do. Tom wants to know if you're going to be at the IPMS Nationals with us this year.
I have every intention of being there unless I get hit by a meteor.
Good deal. Oh, now I see you've already answered that question. Look at that.
Yep, we'll do lunch. And Mark, to answer your question, yes, we do have. I wrote it in the chat, but we have the 1942 spec 3-1 blue-gray color that was seen on Battle of Midway, Santa Cruz, the U.S. Navy two-tone colors. So we do have that color in stock, and I think it might even be up on the website. If it's not, it's real close, within a week or two.
Dracky wants to know if we're going to do an entire set. I have some ideas of selling full sets, but we've got to get the entire line of paints bottled up and labeled and ready to go first. So once we have everything, I think, what was it, 220 colors is the entire base set. So once we get them all done, we can.
Well, that's the rack, I think.
Right.
When the OG scale colors line, I believe, was about 130 colors or somewhere in that neighborhood. And you and I put our heads together and added probably another 55 or 60 new colors to the lineup. And of course, with me being in Wisconsin and Brandon being in Ringgold, my commute is kind of nasty. So I'm not down there full time. So we did about 100 and I think we did about 130 colors.
Right. And we've got about 50 or 60 more here that my wife's going to be jumping on here in the next couple of days.
And then we'll get them.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get them. Then we'll figure out how to sell them up. This guy, Dave, will they work for brush painting 35th scale figures? So just like I was just showing with that Cyclops there, painting the spikes on his stick and his horns. 35th scale faces are so small, it's probably about like I was just painting the spikes. Probably wouldn't be a problem at all. You just got to give it a shot and see how it does. And just remember that that's not the original intended purpose for these paints. It may or may not work how you expect. Ben, talking about the Edward P40, that's pretty big news. They are inbound. They're unfortunately in Atlanta at Customs, which seems to be a broken record with me all the time. But we should have them soon. Maybe by this time next week we'll have them and have them headed your way. And yes, I intend to send invoices either tomorrow or Friday for the unpaid pre-orders. And keep in mind, as my email today said, Edward has already sold out of the P40s. They have already sold out and already discontinued it. We have a handful left that are not spoken for. They may be gone by the time I get to the shop in the morning. So if you did not get one on pre-order, make sure to get one on pre-order tonight because they will be gone. Yep. So Dennis, this is something that Jeff and I have talked about that we definitely want to do. Is just kind of like the website that we keep referring to with the QR codes and the paint schemes. This is just, it's in line with everything else. We want to do it. It's just a matter of how and when. Let's see. Mark wants to know how much are the bottles. So let me take you over to.
Well, here's an earth-shattering announcement. The price has gone down.
Yeah. And when he says gone down, keep in mind that this used to be for sale direct from Jeff at scalecolors.com. Now it is. Now it's changed to Squadron Scale Colors, and it's available at squadron.com. But the price point is Currently $3.25 for one half-ounce bottle. And we've got, I don't even have them on here yet. Let's see, let me grab that bottle. The primers, which will hopefully be available next week, the primers are not half-ounce bottles. They are, what are these, 2-ounce? Yeah, they're 2-ounce bottles, just like the thinner. So the primers and the thinner come in 2-ounce bottles.
And the clears as well.
Yeah, that's right. The clear coats are going to be 2-ounce bottles too.
And the flat will all be in 2-ounce bottles.
But they're not, I forget how much they are. They're a couple bucks more. They're not, what was it, 3 1/4? They're not 3 1/4 times 4. They're just a buck or two more for a 2-ounce. Yep. So, but yeah, they're hopefully a competitive price. One thing that I will mention. So, 4 of them, if you're going to get 4, that's just your 3 1/4 times 4. So you're looking at $13. However, let me pull this website back up. One thing that we are going to do once we get the paint sets launched, where is it at? The first set, this skin color set I was talking about earlier. You do save a buck or two buying a 6-pack set. So you can get a 6-pack, one of the sets, for $17.99.
And you get that nifty box.
And you get the nifty box. So, just a little bit. So our 6-packs are not 3 1/4 times 6. You save a little bit there when you buy the set. But then if you buy the set and you run out of one color, every one of the colors in the sets are available individually.
A la carte.
Absolutely. Benjamin, sounds good, buddy. We will get those invoices for the P40s out, like I said, either tomorrow or Friday. Looking forward to those. So, Jeff, I think I'm going to go ahead and tell you good night, and I'll hang out with these guys for just a minute more and close this on out for the evening.
Very good. If anyone has any questions about paint colors or you have any questions about application or thinning or air pressures, technical questions, drop Brandon an email at info@squadron.com and he will forward it on to me, and I will reach out to you personally.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Nice hat, by the way.
Oh, yeah, same to you. All right, guys. Well, again, please remember that this was not a show off my painting skills video, because I certainly do not have great painting skills. But the fun thing for me is the way I like to come at this is how good or bad my paint jobs are is irrelevant. The fact is, I'm having a good time, and when I actually sit down over here and I do a ship for me that's going to go on my display shelf, I'm satisfied with my results, and I always try to get better. But the thing is, if I can do it, you can do it. A lot of you, I know your models. I've seen your models at the shows. I've seen your pictures, our show and tell that we have. I see what you guys can do, and you're great. But we've got a lot of customers that are not necessarily in this show with us on Wednesday night, but I get phone calls and emails all the time. New people getting into the hobby, which, that's a good thing. We want this hobby to continue, so the manufacturers continue to make new models and provide new products that we all love. So the idea for everything we do is to certainly provide a top shelf product for the top modelers. Like we were talking about Randy's figure that he did. He can do some amazing things that I cannot do with this paint. Jeff talked about his customers can do some amazing things that he can't do with the paint. But the paint is also easy enough to use for beginners to get into the hobby. So that's what I try to do when I show off me over here at the workbench. I'm not showing off. I'm not trying to say I'm a good modeler, because I'm not. I'm just a guy having a good time, and I want to show you guys how easy the products are to use, how easy they can be to use, and then let you run with it and do some amazing things. And then I look forward to seeing your pictures, which, by the way, next week is our February show and tell. I know it's coming up quick. We just did a show and tell a couple of weeks ago, but I want to get back on track to doing our show and tell the first Wednesday night of the month. And next Wednesday is February 5th, which is the first Wednesday night of the month. So a lot of you have sent some pictures in. I don't know how many I've got so far, but send in your show and tell pictures for next Wednesday night. And we'll be here at 9 o'clock, and we will see what everybody has come up with. So, guys, I appreciate it. I'll be back on the phones tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Be in the emails. Look forward to talking to you and getting some models and paint and tools and maybe some new Kagero books and whatever you guys need or want. Look forward to getting it shipped out to you soon and seeing what you guys come up with. So, y'all take it easy, and I'll see you next week.